So I'm in the business of helping people be themselves because that's where the fulfillment is. And I often tell people you can't be fulfilled when you're being someone you're not. And a lot of us are conditioned from a very young age to be who the big people want us to be, or who the church wants us to be, or who the school wants us to be, or who the coach wants us to be. We get used to that programming, and then we leave ourselves behind in the process. So I love helping people come back to who they actually are.
Are you ready to step up your game? Do you want to form the habits required to take your hustle to the next level? You're in the right place. We've been where you are and know that getting to your optimized next level doesn't happen by accident.
Welcome to the Next Level Hustle podcast. Each week, we sit down with experts, entrepreneurs, and people at the top of their game to help you discover how to accelerate what you've already been doing with excellence and speed to find success and fulfillment in every area of your life. I'm your host, Boomer Allred.
And I'm also your host, John Wiesahan.
This is going to be Next Level.
Hey, I am John. I'm your co-host here on the Next Level Hustle podcast.
And hey, I'm Boomer, co-host on the Next Level Hustle podcast. Happy to welcome Jayson Gaddis. Jayson, you know, if you go to jaysongaddis.com, JAYSONGADDIS.com, I mean, you see your credentials, you see all the things, your story is there. Where would you like to introduce yourself? Because it seemed like you have lived a life full of experiences. I would love to know how you would introduce yourself.
Yeah, I am today, how do I want to introduce myself? I am a person who gives a shit about human transformation and human relationships. And so I spent, half my life trying to figure that out for myself and helping others along the way.
That's beautiful. One of the things that I love that you write in your bio is like, you can't stand small talk.
Yeah.
Right. They have no time for small talk. So how do you translate that into your day-to-day when you're either working with clients or even just going, hanging out with people with your kids? And, how do you go about getting deeper and having meaningful conversations?
Yeah. And just to, before you go there, it's, hey, how are you? Like, that's really easy, right? Right. And that's the general go-to that's socially acceptable for most conversations and how they start, whether you know somebody well or you don't. So to just lengthen Boomer's question a little bit, what's your go-to question to help get to a deeper level quicker without people making people feel super awkward, which I could see happening?
Totally. Yeah, well, a lot of it's attunement, right? I'm reading my audience, whether it's the parent night at school or I'm at the store or wherever. I don't tend to lead always with some deep question because I'm sensitive to that's not a fit for everybody. And I do small talk in small doses because that's just life. So I can hang with it. I don't like it very long. And then I want to get to what's really going on. So I might ask the questions that everybody asks. How are you? What's up? What's really up? What's really going on? And then if I have a little more time with them and we're getting past small talk, I might say, what's challenging for you right now? Or what's alive for you right now?
I love that. What's alive for you right now? That's cool. That's powerful. And I imagine that brings up things in people that they aren't even in tune with themselves. That's just fires them up. That's incredible.
Yeah. And some people, not much is alive, so they have a hard time answering that question.
Right. It's like the purpose, right? You ask, what's your purpose? I don't know. Let me get back to you in a month or a year and I'll figure it out. So what is your purpose today, Jayson? You have the Relationship School, founder of the Relationship School. You are, you have mastery program. There's so much going on. It seems like I don't know, if I see what you've created, I imagine when you wake up, you have to have a different purpose or a different way of going about, running your business as a business that provides so much to people in relationships or finding and looking for relationships.
Yeah. So I believe my purpose, I'm on the planet to help people be who they are, kind of period. And then if I had to unpack that, it's using the vehicle of relationship as this big hall of mirrors. We have mirrors all around us, these people in our lives, where we can find out if we're being authentically ourselves or not. Because a lot of us, if we're honest, we tend to shrink or hide parts of ourselves because either they weren't acceptable when we were kids, like our sensitivity as men, for example, our emotions, or maybe we have an artistic side that we feel kind of embarrassed about, and we don't typically lead with that. So I'm in the business of helping people be themselves, because that's where the fulfillment is. And I often tell people you can't be fulfilled when you're being someone you're not. And a lot of us are conditioned from a very young age to be who the big people want us to be, or who the church wants us to be, or who the school wants us to be, or who the coach wants us to be. We get kind of used to that programming, and then we leave ourselves behind in the process. So I love helping people come back to who they actually are.
Yeah, and that's got to be a multi-phase process, right? So I'm curious to know what that journey looks like in your experience with different folks, because I can see somebody where, okay, I found my true self. I figured out who I am, and I'm going to start to act that way in front of people I'm comfortable with. But then being able to own the confidence to take that into the world has got to be another phase of that. Right. Yeah. And then, what does it look like past that? So I'm curious on, just generally speaking, what does that journey normally look like? And I know obviously some people can probably do it in 6 months, and it takes some people 6 years, and it takes some people an entire lifetime. Yeah. But if you could just walk us through the journey that you see a lot with people that you work with.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, John, you called it a journey, because that's exactly what it is. I like to use the phrase, the hero's journey, right? That all of us know about now. The first step is really kind of diagnostic. It's sort of admitting that, wow, I'm one way at home and I'm a different way at work. I'm one way with the guys and I'm a different way with my wife. And when people start to identify they start to go, oh, I wonder if that's part of the reason I'm not fulfilled, is because I feel like I have to be this way around my parents, for example, over the holidays. And I got to be this way with my partner, and I got to be this way with my coworkers. And that doesn't feel good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredibly mentally draining to do that.
That's right. I think so. And look, we all have to, there's some things, some of us have real jobs where it's just not okay to kind of show our true colors because we would lose our job. I understand the cost, but think of doing that for 20 years, 5 days a week. The cost of that is pretty high.
You're spending more time with those people acting that way than you do your own spouse or your own family. And eventually it's got to leak into who you actually become.
That's right. And that's why I love, again, relationship as a vehicle. So when you asked about the journey, in our high stakes relationships, this is the irony here, is where like a marriage, for example, it often is where people begin to shrink and dim their light because it's upsetting their partner, and they don't like conflict, and they don't like rocking the boat, and they start to withhold and dim parts of themselves to maintain the connection, the marriage, to like maintain some kind of status quo relationship. Well, again, years of that is miserable and you build up resentment because you're not being yourself, and then you might blame your partner for not letting you be yourself, but that's really on you. So the journey is, like you said, multifaceted. And I just like admitting it in the first place and beginning to take small, courageous steps towards being more honest, being more transparent, being more vulnerable, being more real with your inner circle, and practicing there and finding out, will people accept me? Will they judge me? Will they criticize me? And the truth is, yeah, they probably will. But is that a good enough reason to not be yourself?
Yeah, there's a massive trust factor there. Because the more you allow yourself to become vulnerable to your inner circle, so to speak, there has to be an incredible amount of trust with that circle, or you put yourself and whatever you're talking about at risk that could impact something else, some other relationship that you have that you're talking about, right? So that's got to be challenging for some people at times, I'd imagine.
It is. And trust is built through adversity and challenge. It's not just given. A lot of people are like, well, when you find the right partner, you just kind of trust them. And, well, stay married for 10 or 20 years. And there's going to be some things that happen in that time that might impact the trust. And the stronger relationships are over time, those relationships are usually built through conflict, challenge, repairing the conflict, working through hard times. Those become really, it's like muscle, right? If you're building muscle at the gym, the way you do that is by adding weight. You got to stress the muscle. So we need stress to actually build trust in relationships. It's not the absence of stress.
Yeah, the one thing that's interesting to me is when you begin acting from when you wake up to when you fall asleep as the same person, people start reacting differently to you. Like when you can be honest in a place maybe you weren't honest before, they actually recognize that, wow, this is a place that we can go now.
Yeah.
Right? It takes time, and it takes, I think, maturity, perspective, all the things that as you get older, like, wow, I don't have to create all this tension. I can step back and just be. I think there's a lot of freedom in that, in different relationships, in whether it's working, whether it's in a, relationship with your spouse, your loved ones. And it leaks into other opportunities to connect with people just by being genuine. But it takes time to get there just to be the same person. And I think, I say this about John, like no matter where he is, he's the same person, whether he's leading his company or in his marriage from what I've seen, or even at the gym. And it's such a great place to see someone just be them. They don't have to put the mask on. They're not playing a role. This is who he is. Yeah. And I love that. I love that about him. Hopefully I show up like that as well. But I would like to think I do.
Unless you're on a boondoggle.
That's right. Not true.
Not true. I'm kidding. I appreciate that, Boomer. But yeah, when it's natural, it's easier to do. That's why I asked your opinion on people who aren't like this and they want to change their mentality to be more true to themselves when they're at an older age. Like that's going to be really hard to coach. So what are some of the tricks and things you tell people to bring that out?
Well, it's like I was teaching a class today, and this guy was saying, I don't want to lose this relationship if I speak up. And I'm like, what's your aversion to loss? What's the big deal if you lose in speaking up? Because you can either lose the relationship when you speak up, or you can lose your relationship to yourself when you don't speak up. What do you want to lose? So which lose do you want? And people need to get on board with there's going to be loss. And often it's in the form of relational loss. When you start to change, if you're into growth and development and you start healing old trauma and you start becoming a better communicator and you start lifting the sort of relational weights, not all of your family members and friends are going to like it. They're not going to like the new you, and you might lose some friends along the way. That's part of the program. It doesn't always happen, but not everybody wants your truth. A lot of people, particularly family members, unconsciously want you to stay stuck and small and in a predictable role that you've always been in, or they get upset.
So just to take a step back, how did you get into this type of work? Is there something that happened that triggered your mentality? If you don't mind speaking about it, I'm curious on how you got into doing this type of work.
Yeah, the short of it is I grew up as a sensitive kid with a stern dad, learned how to stuff my emotions, act tough on the outside, but deep down I was pretty sensitive and relationally kind of tracking everything. And then fast forward to my 20s, I started getting into intimate relationships where I couldn't feel anything, and women would be like, what are you feeling? What's going on in there? And I'd just say, nothing, I'm fine. Those are my kind of two answers for like 10 years. And obviously that creates a lot of headaches in relationships when the man is totally emotionally constipated and shut down. Good women get frustrated with that because it's like they want your heart. Like, no, I want to know what's actually going on in there. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a language for it. I didn't know what was going on. And I just felt irritated anytime they wanted more of me. And so I would push them away, break up with them, and move on to a relationship that didn't demand that of me. And I just honestly blamed every woman I dated until when I was 29, I was breaking up with another good woman. And, I realized I was the one common denominator here in all my breakups. I had a moment of self-reflection. I was like, holy shit, if that's true, I can do something about that. So really relationship pain was what brought me on the path to a personal growth and development to finally go, okay, I've got some problems here. And I do want connection. I like people. I want to have a loving relationship. I want to have a successful relationship. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know how to do it. And I want to learn. So I went and got a master's degree in psychology, became a therapist, and started figuring my shit out.
That's really cool. Are you married now?
I am. 15 years married, 19 together with a couple of bad breakups before the marriage. Yeah, happily, super stoked on my marriage at this point.
That's awesome. How do you have kids? I heard you say?
Yeah, 2 kids.
You talked about school.
Yep, my son's 14 and my daughter's 12.
That's great.
So what does, we talk about relationships and we talk about running a business. And here at Next Level Hustle, we kind of speak to a lot of entrepreneurs, and a lot of people who listen are entrepreneurs, business owners. So you have to run a business as well as be an amazing relationship expert. I would call you a relationship expert. What does that look like for you to, you do in-person workshops, you coach people virtually. What does that look like for you as far as the business, and how do you kind of take this relationship expertise and roll it into getting it out to the people?
Yeah, such a good question. I mean, I could nerd out about this for hours with you guys. I'd love to hear, we could just nerd out on business and how do you balance family and marriage and all the things. It's been a journey, man. Like, I have a high value on relationships. So even when I was working 70 hours a week trying to start this company and stressed as hell and going through it and staying up late and not sleeping and all the things that any entrepreneur understands, right? Or any founder.
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of brutal. I had a high value on relationship, and my wife was always in my corner and believed in me. And, I could cry on her shoulder, lean on her. And whenever I drifted too far into stressed out work guy, which is more left brain, in my head, out of my heart, not that available to her or the kids, she would let me know. And then my kids, they would let me know by acting out and acting kind of more helpless and needy and victim-y, which was feedback for me, like, okay, I'm out of balance here. I got to come back in. And my wife would say things like, look, I don't feel like a priority right now. And that just direct statement always brought me back. Yeah. But, as you guys know, it's not easy. And now I'm at a stage where I built the company to the point where I have a great team and I can step back into my right brain more, my creative artist, if you will, because I love creating. But when I'm in engineer business guy mode, which isn't ultimately my strength, which is why I need to have a good team, right? To do the things that I suck at. When I finally figured that out, and it was hard for me to let go, I was very controlling about that. Like, no, it's me. Only I can do this. And I know how, and my way's the best and all that, it was like really hard.
It's interesting that, here you are working 70 hours. And your wife is like, I'm not feeling loved over here. And she's like, you're trying to create a relationship school,
Exactly.
Like I'm not feeling the love here.
Yeah.
It's, you can feel that, like, oh, where am I going? So I imagine that kind of flipped a switch in your mind. Like, oh yeah, what am I really paying attention to?
Yeah, man. Cause as you know, it feels bad to feel like a fraud or like you're not walking the talk. And, I've always been a transparent teacher and thought leader, and, just that's how I roll. It's tempting to hide, right? Hide our problems or hide our relationship problems. But my wife and I have been fairly transparent about our own challenges and struggles, and that seems to really serve people.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes. My wife and I go through, it'll be 15 years this year in June.
Nice.
Which is fantastic. And, I share a lot of the same characteristics with my wife that you do with yours. And she's supportive. She's my biggest fan, but I feel like sometimes there's peaks and valleys, right? Yeah. Where to maintain relationship continuity, I would say, in your marriage all the time with all the things going on in the business is incredibly difficult. Yeah. And, I always go back to the 80-20 rule. I'm like, look, honey, like sometimes, I run 3 different operating companies, and, sometimes there's just everything from all the companies is being thrown. Mm-hmm. And she recognizes it, she sees it, and she'll call me out like, hey, I need you to be more emotionally available to me right now. And, it's not that I ever tell her no, but sometimes it's difficult to bring that back, and because it's not like you can just drop the things going on in the business and pretend they don't exist. Right?
Yeah.
So being able to maintain that is really, really hard. And one thing I've learned that's worked well is it's funny. I'll just delete the Microsoft Outlook app off of my phone, the mail app.
Nice.
Where I'm not looking at email, I'm not checking email on my phone. And if I want to do it, it's on my computer, and it requires me to be more intentional with the people I'm with in times like that, because that work is still going to be there in an hour when I open my computer. It's just a little trick mechanism I've used for my own relationship that I've encouraged my team members, my executive team, to do from time to time when those peaks happen at work, to make sure you're still present with your kids and your loved ones at home.
Yeah, I'm hearing boundaries, right? It's like we've got to, because the entrepreneur person mindset is like, there's a certain mindset that's like, no, I need to work all the time, or if I don't stay up later or get up earlier, won't happen. And I don't think that's true. I've had to really work with that. It's like, how can I get more efficient during the day so I can set it down and show up for the family, with the family. And I've gotten a lot better at that. But man, there were a couple of years there that, like you said, it was really hard. And I like the 80-20 rule as well. Like, look, if 80% of the time we are good, I'm winning.
Right.
Because 20% of the time you're going to be in conflict, disconnected, in a fight, someone's feelings are hurt. And that's okay. That's normal. You don't want it to creep into like 50-50 or it just gets really dicey.
Yeah. And in our male brains, obviously work different than female brains.
Yeah.
But in our male brains, to me, I'm like, I am doing, in the 20%, I'm like, I am doing this for our family. Like, do you not understand? And you end up taking it to another level that just doesn't need to get, because she's not looking at it that way. Or whoever it is that you're in conflict, your kids are not seeing it that way. They're like, I need you. You're my dad. I need you now. It doesn't matter what it's going to be like in 15 years. I need you today.
I think in our father's generation, because we seem, in the same vintage, our father's generation, that might have been okay, or their dad's generation, where like, it's just kind of an unspoken thing. Like, look, I'm a provider here, and that's how I show love. And you don't need my emotional availability, and that's not on the menu anyway. And it kind of works. These days though, us men, I think there's more being asked of us. It's like, be the provider, be strong, but also be kind of soft and vulnerable and be in your heart. So we have more to work with these days, I think.
Right. That's true. Man, this has been cool. It's fun to have you on. How do you and Boomer know each other? Just to kind of circle back to what we usually do in the beginning here.
Well, I heard Jayson at an Unbeatable Mind retreat. He was virtual. Unfortunately, it was during the pandemic, and just was really impressed with kind of your vulnerability, how honest you were about your relationship, where you got to be where you are today. You got to do some exercises, and really was, I like your humor. I think that you communicate really well, and I just knew that you'd be perfect for just the audience. I just feel that there's, everyone thinks it's business first, but if you can create powerful relationships, and no matter who you are connected with, you have a much richer life. It's just, I just feel that way. And so super honored that you said, let's do it. And really want to know, how can the audience work with you? Like, what's a way that our listeners could get involved with the things you have going on?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, my book is a great, affordable place to start, that or the podcast. I have a podcast called Relationship School Podcast. That's a good one. All free, of course. And my book is called Getting to Zero: How to Work Through Conflict in Your High Stakes Relationships. If you're a reader, it's on Audible too, and I read the book. So those are good places to start, potentially. And
you have a great newsletter.
Yeah, thanks. Newsletter, jasongaddis.com/newsletter, Jayson with a Y. Yeah, I love writing. I love creating content. I'm very active on Instagram at Jayson Gaddis. Yeah, having fun right now with that.
And how much writing are you doing? Like, how much time do you set aside to just write and think and create?
Damn, you're kind of calling me forward here. Well,
come on.
No, in a good way. I'm in this process of trying to get more discipline there. So my next book is in my brain, and I've started the draft of an outline. And I spend every Friday no one gets my time. Friday is only me, and it's creation day. I do go to the gym that day, and that's about it. And other than that, I'm in front of my computer or on a walk or just doing my best to like drop into my creative self and to write. And then I have chunks of time on Monday, Tuesday mornings lately to create. And mostly it looks like a Google Doc. I'm writing and then I'm posting. I'm reworking old content. I have this kind of system with all these Google Docs where I rework content or I have new content and I'm kind of working on it. And I have this color coding system in terms of what's green is like ready to post, yellow is like not quite ready, and red is it's not there. But I'm wanting to be even more disciplined. As you guys know, discipline is such a key, right, to getting anything done.
Absolutely.
In our lives.
Getting to the next level for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, Jayson, this is incredible. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. It's been very easy and chill and fun hanging out with you two.
Very good. Well, we'll geek out some other time about the next level business plan for you.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening to the Next Level Hustle podcast, where we help you accelerate what you already know to the next level.
If you'd like to support the podcast, consider sharing it on social media, subscribing wherever you listen, or leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll see you next week for another Next Level Hustle conversation. I'm John, and I'm out.
And I'm Boomer. I'm also out.